Hey Bat fans, Luke here, ready to Bat chat about another Bat book, and today we're going to take a look at Batman Black and White Volume 2. So just to kind of preface this, when you hear Batman Black and White in their respective volumes, when you hear volume, think of this case in trade format. We're talking about the actual trades. Because there's actually two volumes of Batman Black and White. Batman Volume 1 actually included single issues that were collected in trades 1, 2, and 3. So those would be volumes 1, 2, and 3. And then when they had the New 52, they relaunched the Black and White series. That one was considered in single issue format volume 2, but in trade version, it's actually annotated as volume 4. And Batman Black and White, I love Batman Black and White. I did a review of volume 1 a little bit ago on my channel, and you can take a look at that. But the reason why I love Batman Black and White is just, they're just fun stories, and they kind of come in different type of ways they're kind of told. Sometimes you'll get kind of like a theme that they're trying to hit on. You know, how Batman interacts with someone, a good character study of a particular character. Or you'll just get a simple, fun story. The best part about them, they're 8 pages, and you get a beginning, middle, end, all done in 8 pages. And they're all done in a way that you can read them one at a time, and they don't necessarily connect to each other. And that means you can read a 8-page story one time, come back tomorrow, read another 8-page story, or you can binge the whole entire volume if you want one time, or you can read a couple of stories here, take a break, come back next week, read 1 or 2 more. So you kind of go at your own pace without the worry of really worrying about, do I have to remember what happened in the last story to kind of continue on and get the full gist of what's going on in the volume. So these are read at your own pace, and they're fun stories. They're 8 pages. They have a great beginning, middle, and end, which makes you wonder how you get folks who have an 85 issue run and their stories kind of have holes in it, and that's kind of being tongue-in-cheek. I think you know who in particular I'm talking about. But that's really the selling point, is 8-page stories. That's it. And you have a great cast of creators to actually do those stories. And this one, let's see, count. You get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 8-page stories in this single trade. And the creators are great creators in this. Writers actually have Paul Dini actually does a couple in this. You have Ty Templeton. Ty Templeton, he was one of the writers in the creative team behind the Batman Adventures. The Batman animated stories kind of inspired comic books, single issue runs. Another writer, Chris Claremont, Kelly Puckett, another Batman Adventures writer. Who other big ones? Warren Ellis, John Byrne, Paul Pope, Paul Levitz. Let's see who else. Brian Azzarello, Howard Chaykin, Dave Gibbons. Dave Gibbons of Watchmen fame. Again, Paul Dini does another one. Alan Grant, a great Batman creator, circa Shadow of the Bat type of time period. Artists, you have Alex Ross. Alex Ross, really no intro really needed for him. Just a great artist. Who else? Steve Rude, Tim Sale has art in this. Jim Lee, he has art in this. I already mentioned John Byrne, who actually does the writing and the art in one issue. Paul Pope. John Paul Leone, John Buscema, classic artist. Eduardo Rizzo, he's in here. Who else? I think that's really it for the big artists. But again, great creators in this volume with, again, 8-page stories that you read your own pace. It opens up with probably the best one in this whole entire volume. It's Case Study. This one written by Paul Dini and art by Alex Ross. And Alex Ross, you get that realistic type of approach to art in this, kind of like portrait type of style, and it's great paneling. And this story, the theme is the Joker. It's Joker who's actually being arrested, brought back to Arkham, and you have these members of the staff kind of saying, how are we going to deal with this guy? It's like the revolving door. He comes here and he finds a way to get out. And behind that theme, you get a little bit of an origin story behind this in the Joker character. And this one really shows his connection with the mob, and kind of rises up in the ranks a little bit. But how conniving he can be. Joker's a bad man, don't get it wrong. But he's very intelligent. He's very tactical in the way he goes about his business. And it's kind of done here in this story. It's great. 8-page story, great theme, character study, the Joker, a little bit of the backstory, in addition to how he impacts the others around him. In this case, Arkham. Just great story, and this opens up. It's just fantastic. This next story, Batsman, Swarming Scourge of the Underworld, written by Ty Templeton, art by Marie Severin. This one, it's kind of another kind of thematic story in that Batman, he's a loner. He's a brooding individual, but even though he's kind of a loner, he has all these people that he's surrounded by. And this is a case of Batman having to solve a crime that's being occurred in a museum. And then in the way he's trying to solve this crime, he's getting bombarded with all these members of the Batman family. Robin shows up, Nightwing shows up, Azrael. So he's just getting kind of overwhelmed by all these people that are always around him. He gets to the museum, he finds more people, Clayface, Talia. So I guess the theme of this is, yes, is Batman kind of brooding loner? Sometimes he thinks he is, but in reality, he's surrounded by a great cast of individuals. So a great story in that perspective. This next one is A Matter of Trust by Chris Claremont and Steve Rude. This would probably be the second best story in this, but this one you kind of have to take with a grain of salt. We all know that Bruce Wayne is the father of Damian. In this story here, Bruce Wayne is being called upon this individual, a childhood friend of his, and she has 2 children, and Bruce is the godfather to these 2 individuals, and this person has to go pull an extended shift at the hospital, so she asked Bruce Wayne to babysit her kids, his godchildren. And the story kind of takes a study into the character. What would Bruce Wayne kind of be like as a father figure? And we kind of get that with all the different Robins, and specifically him being a father to Damian. But this was just a great story, just how these kids run amok. You think Bruce Wayne's kind of a little bit out of his element here, but how it kind of wraps up at the end actually shows that, Bruce can actually be a really good father figure. And that was just truly just a fun story to read. Next story, this is Night After Night, written by Kelly Puckett and art by Tim Sale. This one, it was great art, but this one, it's kind of had a hard time trying to see what was really the point of the story. In that it's a Joker story, the Batman dealing with the Joker and how Batman uses the motivation to kind of go against the Joker in this. So the story was kind of hurting from that perspective, but the art was fun. And if you like, Long Halloween and Dark Victory and Haunted Night, that's the artist. So it was good to kind of see that art style in this, and the story that was okay, more kind of overshadowed by the actual art, to be perfectly honest. Next one, Fortunes, written by Steven Seagal, art by Daniel Torres. This one was a good detective story in that you actually see this individual. She's kind of like a tarot card reader, a fortune teller, and the person's found dead, and Batman's there to solve the crime. But there's also another individual named Batna Asharath. This person's also a detective, and it's a great detective story as you see them kind of solve the crime, and more as the person kind of comes to the answer as to what happened, not necessarily the lead by Batman. He's there in their periphery and kind of helps out, but it's the other person actually that. In this one time, the greatest detective might have been outdone by another detective. So it was good behind that perspective. It was a great story done. 8 pages, really didn't see any holes. I will say I had to read it again a second time just to make sure I kind of get the concept what they're talking about, because there's actually 2 tarot card readers and you'll get it once you read it. So it did require another read just to make sure I fully understood the plot. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It was just me just wanting to make sure 100%. But it was still a fun detective story with art that was actually pretty good as well. This next one, Batman to Become the Bat, written by Warren Ellis and art by Jim Lee. Jim Lee is a great artist, don't get me wrong, but this might have been the case where sometimes artists need a good inker and colorist to kind of flesh out the pencils. And this one, I don't know if Jim Lee did the art in this by himself, but I think the ink didn't really flesh out his pencils as much. It looks like there was some details kind of missing, or maybe if the ink was done a little with a different approach. And definitely with color, I think color would definitely help us out too. So, while I love Jim Lee's art, this one might have been a case where, probably not his best effort. Plus, I think he kind of recycled this page right here. That's the first issue of Hush, Batman 608, I think. I was kind of like, oh, come on. So, and that one I've seen before too. But anyway, it's a great detective story. There's a prostitute that's been killed, and Batman has to solve the crime to see who did it, and it turned out to be a politician. So, great detective story with art that was okay. Not Jim Lee's best, but definitely in this case, I think the story actually outdid the art. For Jim Lee, that was kind of a little bit of a downer. Next one, Batman with Robin the Boy Wonder. This one, can't remember the creative team. This was actually written and art by John Byrne. This was a great golden age Batman story. Batman and Robin trying to find out who's peddling all these drugs into Gotham, and there's these original suspects that they think they're behind it, but turns out they're the people that are kind of going to be like the dominoes is going to lead to find out who's really behind it. So they get released, but they still kind of need to entrap these 2 brothers to find out who's really behind all this. And it's really Batman and Robin really being with them after they're released everywhere they go to kind of observe. And the way they kind of do it to kind of give them an out to kind of think, Batman and Robin are away so they can kind of get the drugs. Because they don't get the drugs before a certain time, they're going to not get the money. How they pull a switcheroo on them at the very end, I thought was very clever. So this is a great golden age type of centric story, which is done really well. It was fun. Next story, Broken Nose by Paul Pope. This one was good in that Batman actually gets his butt whipped by this robot. Villain actually has someone in between, underneath the robot structure, and he has this broken nose, and amongst other things, so Alfred kind of stitches him up and says, okay, you're okay with everything, but as long as you kind of take it easy and don't smile. If you smile, it's going to break your nose again. So Batman goes back to get this person that kind of put a whooping on the first time. He interacts with this robot, takes the person down, and he gets so happy that, not really happy, just the way he kind of takes this other individual down, he cracks a smile and breaks his nose again. So the second time him breaking his nose is actually by him smiling. So you ever see, stories where it's like, Batman never smiles. Well, this is kind of like the theme they're going. This, Batman's just a brooding character. And one time he smiles, he breaks his nose. I thought that was clever. Fun story. This next one, Greetings from Gotham City, written by John Arcudi, art by Tony Salamis, whatever. Butcher that name, I'm sure. This one, it has a great twist in the end. To be honest, I did not see it coming. There's a story where Batman's going up against these villains, these like low street level criminals. And as the story's going on, it's kind of like the dialogue that's written on the actual postcard. In a way, the twist at the end, the person who's actually writing this postcard to family members, I didn't see coming to the end. You're like, oh, come on. I should have saw that. So I thought that was a clever twist in this. So this is a simple, great, again, 8-page story with a twist, really executed really well. Which, again, you get to the end, you're like, I should have saw that. Next one, Hide and Seek. This one written by Paul Levitz with art by Paul Revoche. I'm sure I'm butchering that name. This one is a great thematic story in that there's this, as you see, kind of like a subway wreckage. You're trying to find out who caused this wreckage, but we find out there's actually an individual that first Gordon thinks that's behind it, but turns out there's this kid who was in the vicinity, and that the wreckage was so intense, the kid's kind of disoriented and lost. And Batman finds a way to track down the child and kind of save him. And the theme is that the child was lost, in that he was lost always because of being disoriented because of the wreck. But the parallel with this is Batman also being lost as a child, lost of his parents and trying to find his way. So the parallel of, a child lost in two different perspectives, really done really well. This was a fun story, a good thematic story in that. Next one, this is a story called Riddle the Riddle, and I can't remember the creative team behind this one. Walter Simonson, writer, and artist John Pauliam. This is a classic 8-page Riddler story, and that Riddler is trying to find out the answer to this one riddle that's just evading him, and it's a riddle that incorporates Alice in Wonderland. So you're reading it thinking this is going to be Mad Hatter somehow, some way, kind of brought into this, but no. This is just Riddler trying to track down the answer to this riddle, and Batman along for the ride to kind of take him down, which I thought was just really well done. Really good 8-page Riddler story. This next one, I forget the name of it. This one written by John Crudi, art by John Buscema. This is the case where I thought the story, it was okay. This is Batman trying to crack down these low street level criminals, F-list criminals, and to be honest, not really a great story, but art by John Buscema was just fantastic. So this is the case where you're kind of reading the story like, meh, but you get great art in this by John Buscema, a classic artist. This next one, get the name of it. This was another, probably one of the better ones. Let me see if I can get the name of it. This is one written by Brian Azzarello with art by Eduardo Rizzo. Scars. It's a classic, not really, I wouldn't say classic, but a great Victor Zsasz story. Batman comes across this crime scene with all these murders, and there's Victor Zsasz there. And I guess the theme behind this is all his power. Zsasz kind of shows how he gets power out of these people, killing them, and the intimate moments they have between them two as the victim just before they die, the power that Zsasz feels. But Batman pulls the tables on him and say, hey, that's not power. The real power is, when I save someone's life. And they kind of reflect on, hey, that person just saved me. That's power. That's, using things for good. So you kind of get the dichotomy of, different point of views of power in this. And it was just great. It was noirish, great art. It was just a great story. Really well done, again, in 8 pages. Next one, Blackout, written by Howard Chaykin, art by Jordy Burnett. This one's set in 1943, and that Gotham has gone dark. And obviously crime's going to ensue, and initially Batman's trying to track down Catwoman, who's stealing these jewels, but find there's actually someone else involved. So Catwoman and Batman need to kind of team up to take the other person down. Turns out to be a Nazi. Yeah. 1943, World War II, you kind of get it. But at the end, Catwoman kind of gets away, thinking she pulled like a quick wool over Batman's eyes, but it turned out Batman one step ahead of her. It was a good detective-ish story with how Batman interacts with Catwoman. I thought it was fun. This next one is The Guardian. Let me see if I can... This is another one of the better stories in this. Written by Alan Burnett with art by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. This one deals with Batman and Green Lantern. And if you read Batman Who Laughs, the backstory behind that one, well, it's called, I think, Wood. It's classic. This is a story where Batman and Green Lantern work together to solve this crime. And it's kind of like a passing of the torch of who's going to be the real, hero for Gotham. So this is actually Green Lantern pass that on to Batman. Again, if you read The Wood and that Batman Who Laughs backstory, Batman the Man Who Laughs, I'm sorry. Yeah, you'll kind of get more context in this, but it was great. It was a great story. This next one, to be honest, another one of those throwaways. Batman, skiing, and there's this person who thinks is his son, so it looks like Batman and Robin skiing in front of the crowd, and there's a crime that goes down, and it turns out to be a dream. It was so. This felt like one of those kids' stories, to be perfectly honest. It was kind of meh. This next one, Batman, the Black and White Bandit. Story and art by Dave Gibbons. Again, Dave Gibbons of Watchmen fame. This one, it's an 8-page story that kind of deals with this character Domino, who can only see black and white, and it gives a good origin to this character, which I haven't seen since, to be the Black and White Bandits. I haven't really seen this character since, to be perfectly honest, and if it has, I kind of forgot. But it's a great detective story, and you get a good origin. So all in all, this was fun. This was a fun story. Next one, Funny Money. I forget the artist in this. This one's Gene Ha, written by Harlan Ellison. This is Batman trying to crack down a counterfeit money ring, and a good detective story with really good art in this. Actually, really good art. The story was okay, and art really kind of fleshed it along. This next one, The Bet. This is written by Paul Dini, art by Ronnie Del Carmen. This is Harley and Poison Ivy basically having a kissing contest. Who can get the most kisses in Arkham? And Ivy clearly has the edge. She uses her Poison Ivy powers to kind of subdue all the males to get more kisses, but the Joker shows up, and Harley be damned if she's going to let Ivy kiss the Joker. And then the twist at the end I thought was really well done. So it's just a great Paul Dini story, kind of get like the Batman Adventures type of feel to it. This next one, Stormy Nether, written by Tom Pyre, art by Gene Colan. Great story. Batman trapping down this criminal, puts this child in danger, and as the criminal's trying to go away, you think he lives, and he's kind of having all these visions, but you find out that the criminal actually dies, and in his dying moment, you see all these visions that the individual sees of Batman. And it's just how Batman has the effect on all the criminals in Gotham. It's just really well done. Last story, The Bat No More. Script by Alan Grant, art by Enrique Baricia. This one was a classic Batman versus Scarecrow story. Batman gets hit by the fear gas and kind of has all these hallucinations, but we find out Batman pulls the 360 on Scarecrow and hits him with the fear gas. And you see Scarecrow trying to cope with all these visions, and it's kind of like a bet to the end. They both have the antidote, but who's going to get it? I thought it was really well done. So overall, Batman Black and White Volume 2, highly recommend this. 8-page stories, read them at your own leisure. Some of them had great themes, some of them were just great stories to read. I'm giving this a 4.5 out of 5, highly recommend it, and definitely you should go pick it up. So anyway, hit me up in the comments below if you read this, and we'll kind of bat chat and go from there. And maybe next video, maybe do Volume 3. If not, try to see which story to go next. So until next video, take care.